Hey gang, welcome back to Inverted Pursuits Laboratory. And today we're getting to part 3 of our EggFinder build. So we're actually now finally getting onto our EggFinder Mini. So this is the EggFinder Mini, the packaging that it comes in. We'll get to all its parts here in just a second, but we're gonna go ahead and get through the entire build and any programming that we need to do. All right, so we're coming in real tight here for the entire rest of the build, try and make sure I can get as much of the detail easily on camera for what we're doing. So inside the EggFinder Mini packaging, we find instructions, and there are gonna be a series of loose parts in here as we go along. But all right, that's everything out of the packaging. So we've got more solder. We will not be opening this because I still have tons of solder from the previous project, and I'm gonna work my way through what little I have left before I open more. So we've got the instruction list. I know one of the things on the list is already gonna be solder. So I'll get this off out of the way. Yes, solder. We have an 8-inch 3-conductor wire. This one is actually a different color than what came in the GPS module. I actually really like that. Might actually see if I can permanently mount this in my box to make programming a little easier. And we have a 2 decibel stubby screw mount antenna and the screw that goes with it. So we'll set this off to the side. I don't actually know where the limit of my camera is at the moment. Okay, so that's pretty much right about there. All right, so now we're gonna go through all of the individual components that come in this kit. So to start with, we get the GPS board, or the primary board that already has the GPS antenna mounted to it. So again, I said it in the last part when we built the GPS module for the base station, but I like that this is already soldered on. They want you to go in and verify all of the solder joints along the edges here. We also have our ever so precious RF board. We're going to try and be very careful with that board. Very delicate little piece of equipment. And then we've got all of the general components for building this. All right, so we've already found the RF module and the main circuit board. So we should have a voltage regulator. Should be. All right, we got a 3-pin connector. We've got 2 2-pin connectors and 2 jumpers. We'll start with the quick things that are easy to pull out. Because the things that you can't tell what they are usually the ones that are left over. So the LED is this little itty bitty guy here. So we'll need to remember that. It's easy to tell it's the LED because it has a little green T on it. That's the LED. It will, they won't tell you that it has a little green T on it, it just does. We have, with a green stripe on it, brown part with green stripe. This is a 4.7 microfarad capacitor that we'll want to keep track of. Then we have a brown part in clear tape, clear plastic. I assume is what they mean with no stripe. This is a 10 microfarad capacitor. Then we have, what do we have? Paper. Brown in paper. So this part's actually brown in comparison to the other part that's black. This is a capacitor. This is a 0.1 microfarad capacitor. We have then, would be black in paper tape. Okay, this is a resistor. I know that much. It's a 331 resistor. Yep, 331. I didn't label it, but that's a 331 resistor. All right, with the black stripe. This is a 0.1 microfarad capacitor, so we're going to keep all the capacitors together. I also have, so, 2 parts here. So this is the diode, and this is the voltage regulator. So I was right on that being the voltage regulator, but that is a diode. So some of these parts get really small, like this LED, that green guy, that's the bottom. This LED is polarized, as is the diode here. These are polarized components. It will be very obvious when you put them in backwards, because they won't work. There are several spots throughout the build where they tell us to stop and check what we're doing to make sure we haven't done something wrong. We're mounting the 0.1 microfarad capacitor, brown unmarked part in paper tape, and it goes on the C104 pad. All right, so right here we have the C104 pad set, and on there goes, they said the 0.1 microfarad, which is brown part in paper tape, which is this guy. So we're gonna go ahead and get one of these out of here. And the first thing we're gonna do is tin a pad. So if you've seen the previous videos in this series, tinning a pad, we're just going to hold some heat on the pad and gently apply solder. The goal is not to keep applying it to the tip, but to actually apply it to the pad. Alright, there we go. Got it on the pad. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and take the part. I like using these 90 tweezers. It's been working a lot better for me as we've gone about this process. Oh boy, this thing is really hard to work with. So what I'm going to do, yeah, please excuse the state of tape on these things. I put tape on them to keep them from being a conductor when I was using them previously. And it looks like, yeah, things got a little roasty toasty. Okay, we're going to very gently hold the board. Come in here. Okay, this is not going well. Alrighty. Obviously the part did not hold on the board. Alright, that was not great for soldering, but first solder joint in a week. What do we expect? Alright. Next one, we're gonna jump in real quick. Whatever. There's a twist in that now. We're gonna jump in and get the other side. So we're gonna come in here very carefully. And apply solder. Perfect. Now I'm going to come back over here and reflow the opposing side, which was looking really ugly. All right, perfect. That capacitor is now on. Thank God. We then mount the 10 microfarad capacitor, that is clear plastic tape. 10 microfarad. Yep, that's the clear packaging, no stripe. So, go ahead and move some of these out of the way. We do only need pretty much one of almost all of these components, but they give us lots. I've mentioned in previous videos, I really like that they give us lots of parts. Not that I need extra parts, but I like having spare parts lying around. All right. So we're gonna do this pad. There we go. Got it on there. I'm gonna come in and grab the capacitor. There we go. That is on that side. And now we will quickly swap over and solder the side. Okay, that is well attached. All right, so after that capacitor, we are moving on to the LED. There should be a colored dot. The next one we're doing is the LED. So this thing is ridiculously tiny, and they do mention that. It is very tiny. They do only give us one of these. I would imagine that is a cost prohibitive item to give us more than one. I do not know if this LED were to be missing, if the circuit would continue to work. Oftentimes on circuits, LEDs are just on a secondary side circuit. Other times they are very much in the middle of the circuit. All right. So it says to use a 10x jeweler's loop to look at these parts. Don't have one of those. There is a colored dot on here, which on here there's a green colored dot next to my finger. It is on the same side as if we flip this over. There's a very long, there's a T, and the bottom of the T is over here. So the colored dot is always on the same side as that T. And this guy will be mounting right here on this. It's got a little diode or a little symbol for an LED next to it, which is very hard to see. So how this is going to work is that little dot is going to end up facing towards, there's a marking on one pad and not on the other, which is not that it's on the pad, it's near the pad, and that's what they're getting at anyway. So we're going to do this just like we've done every other part. It's just a lot smaller this time. So we're doing that. And now I just realized I've got some things in the wrong hands. I don't know how this is going to go, but we're going to just very carefully take our time. All right, so that seems to be on there. My next goal is to heat up the opposing pad and solder it on. Okay, and that looks to be attached as well. Being such a small part, it seems like it takes solder, oh, it takes heat, which allows the solder to flow very easily. After that, Apparently parts go on the bottom of this board. Okay. So we flip the board over, and look at that. There's more mounting spots on the bottom. Looks like that's where our RF board's going to go as well, actually, is down here. So this must be a multi-layer board with additional workings on the back. So our voltage regulator, which is this little guy, is going to go right here. Now, if you remember from the LCD display, when you're mounting a voltage regulator, you start with the big pad. And you always want your tip clean. I very recently got, in between videos, got a brand new tip cleaner. It's now, I've got a copper brush to clean it on, and I'm finding this is making soldering a lot easier on other small projects I've been doing. All right, let's get our voltage regulator out of here. So if any of you remember the LCD video, this particular part gave me a lot of trouble for my first time doing one of them. I am gonna go ahead and I want that on that side, and I want this in my other hand. So we're gonna come in and try to not touch anything. Okay, wow, that went really well. You'll notice I'm often surprised when things go well because I'm known more for having fun mistakes. So now we come in and we're going to solder on the 3 pins. For some of you, this is old news. Some of you may be judging the way I'm doing this. That's fine. I accept your judgment. I also accept that there are multiple ways to do something, so this one's mine. All right, that voltage regulator is completely attached, and we're on to the next component. We're now going to be mounting our resistor. It is marked 331. It will also be marked 331 on the board. In their diagram, they show, so there's 331 is marked right here, and it reads left to right with this being the top of the board. They show the resistor on there in the exact same configuration. Again, I really don't, they don't mention if these are polarized or not. I've been consistently throughout this video series assuming that they are polarized and mounting them so that the tiny little numbers on there align the exact same way. In part because it makes me feel good. In part because I don't know any better. So, someone will probably have already told me whether I was right or wrong to do it this way. And if you know if I'm right or wrong to do it this way, go ahead and tell me. Because I love to learn things like that. Currently, I just don't know any better. So, I always err on the side of caution when I don't know. Surface mount is something I have only learned very recently. And usually the instructions are very to the point on how to do surface mount. All right. Next, we're doing the 4.7 microfarad capacitor. It is the brown unmarked part in clear tape with a green stripe on it. It mounts directly below the voltage regulator. So I guess technically above the voltage regulator if we're counting this at the top of the board. It mounts right here. It is this guy, green stripe, as it said. Verify that. Yep, green stripe. Cool. So we'll get this out real quick and get it mounted. All right. Little guy. And we're gonna go ahead and solder this pad. Let's get the not so helpful helping hands out of the way. Ooh, not looking to burn pads off today, boys. Okay, I am running into an issue caused by spacing, where I want to put pressure down but can't. Dang it, it had not settled yet. All right, now it's solid. Right, we're just gonna flip it over real quick and then solder the opposing side. All right, that one should be mounted. Perfect. Next, we're mounting my 1 microfarad capacitor, which is clear tape black stripe directly above that, so up here. Here's our part. Put our spares off to the side. Let's get in here real quick and solder on that pad. Use our prop again. And then all right. I don't think that's quite as held in place as I'd like it to be, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the opposing side done because I really like the way that went on. And that one went on beautifully. So then let's come back real quick and let me reflow the opposing side of that. All right, perfect. That reflowed really well. Oh, and my cat's saying hi. All right, next we're going to mount the diode. So the diode is polarized. If you look closely at it, you'll see that one side has a stripe on it. Locate that spot for the diode on the far right of the board. It's usually marked with the word diode. One of the pads has a stripe right next to it. Tin the pad with a stripe on it lightly. Place the diode on that stripe. On it, over tin part on the PC board. Heat the pad and slide it into place. Do not solder on the pad yet. The one without the stripe, which has the plus battery next to it, you'll solder that one later when you install the battery connection. Oh, okay. So it's actually coming in through the diode. Interesting. All right, so our diode is this little guy. It's the last one we have in plastic. Really not really getting these out today. All right, there is one side that has a stripe on it for our diode. For me, it is this side away from me. So we want to go ahead and solder, I'm gonna aim this way. We want to solder this pad here. And then we will be using, I'm going to end up swapping hands because I feel like this is a little bit better visibility wise. Okay, so we've now soldered that side. It says not to solder this side until we add the power wire to it. I can see why. There's just really not much space there. So I believe the next thing we're jumping into will probably be the RF module. Oh, nope, the pins. Why you don't do projects late at night. All right, so next thing we're doing is the 2-pin headers. So the 2-pin headers go here. One is called run, the other says PGM, which is for program. Your headers are these little guys. They have a long side and a short side. Short side goes into the board, long side comes up. It's for ease of use. So we're going to put one in each set of holes and then apparently hold in place with some tape. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work yet. So that goes there. I'm kind of just going to do that for the moment. All right. So we're going to start here. Get one. All right, get the other. Then we're going to do the second header. That is actually incredibly straight. Second header goes right there. I'm only gonna kind of roughly hold it in place. For this one, I definitely recommend you turn this to face you. Alrighty, those 2 pins are now soldered. All right, remove the tape. You now have both header pins mounted. I believe we're now actually going to go to the 3-pin header, which actually needs bent. So you're going to end up taking a pair of pliers to your 3-pin header, which I know sounds sacrilege. And we're going to bend them out so that the pins sit at roughly a 45-degree angle, which again sounds kind of crazy, but basically we want it to sit, if you guys can see that, roughly at an angle there. They have a lot better pictures of it in their instructions, which you can see on their website. So it tells me to tin the center pad is where to start, and then the 2 outside pads. They said this is going to take a fair amount of work to get done, so I'm going to add a fair amount of solder on there. Then we'll need, they recommend a pair of pliers. I'm actually going to do it with a pair of pliers rather than with my tweezers, mostly because they actually said pliers instead of like hold down device. Alrighty. Amazingly, that attached to the pin. I'm a little shocked. That went way better than that is supposed to go. And in case you're wondering, yes, that was supposed to be hard. So we're gonna start on this side. Hit the pin and the pad together. Flood the connection here real quick. Flood the pin in the pad, the connection, and then I'm actually going to come back to the center and add a little more solder so it gets some really nice bubbled looks to it. So it's a way to guarantee everything is very securely attached. So from there, we want to solder on our battery connector to your computer. So you actually want to take one of these jumpers and place it across the pin set marked run. So that's this one here. So then we're gonna connect a USB serial cable. All right, so I'm gonna show you the ugly side of this real quick. All right, so we're coming over to the computer here. That is a mess. So I have this USB serial cable. I will plug one side into the computer, and we hear the computer recognize it. And I've actually got the instructions up on the screen, so like we'll kind of use them to our advantage as we go along here. So the black one is going on ground and the white one is going on RX. Looking at it this way with the red on top, basically the white goes on the bottom pin, black goes on the top pin. That third pin is 3.3 volts. And we don't need that right now. I don't have much time here. I got it to run. I am in visual GPS view. There's a little tab called NEMA over here. You have to set it up in settings first. COM port 5, 9600 baud rate. Hit NEMA monitor. After you plug it in, you'll start to see scrolling data. That means you did it correctly. All right, my battery's about to die, and we know it works, so we're gonna be moving on to the next step. So that last segment, we saw that the thing works. Oh, that was what I wanted. All right, we're gonna try and see if I can get this to stabilize now for a second. Don't need it long. All right, the next thing we're doing is mounting the Hope RF transmitter thingy, this little guy. If you remember from the last video where we did GPS stuff, the GPS requires a 30-second pause in between everything, so we are instead going to just snap our fingers and have it be done. All right, and look at that, we're done. It took me about, I don't know, we're at, I think 15 minutes to do all the soldering. I ended up giving every pin about a little over a minute. So we got all of those soldered. I did accidentally over solder one pin. That's this one right here. It actually has more solder than it needs on it. But, oh, and on top of that, I actually finally got into a new thing of solder. I got down to the point where I wasn't wanting to work with what I had left and just open the next one. So the last thing we have to do is installing this antenna. I can honestly probably back you guys out quite a bit to make this easier to see. So the antenna here attaches on the board there. Specific direction it mounts. Doesn't seem to be a specific direction. I will probably be adjusting it based on what I'm using, or how I'm mounting it, I should say. So first off, we're gonna get that guy kind of started in there, and then I'm gonna just come in here with a very wrong screwdriver for this and get the antenna at least initially on there. All right, so that's the actual entire build. You do have a spare jumper. At this point, you're functional. The only thing you haven't done is basically programmed it. If you're wondering how in the heck that works, cool, so am I. So programming is oodles of fun, but we gotta change camera positions for that. All right, GoPro, start recording. Oh, you're still recording. All right, so we've got this plugged in. The next thing we're gonna do is we're actually gonna plug this in. I'm gonna set it up so that purple's my 3v3 on here. I also want to move our jumper to the program heading. What we're actually gonna do is adjust the frequency on this. These already should be on the same wavelength, but I wanna make sure. So next, we're plugging these 3 pins into the 4-pin header on the back. So the 4-pin header is this one here on the back of the LCD unit. So from there, we're gonna just kind of gently close this down, and I'm gonna walk through this as simply as I can. So I'm gonna turn this on, see that. All right, we want frequency / ID. So we want 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. All right, so our frequency is currently 915. We want to adjust this fact. So we can do anything from 909 to 925 by 2s. And then we'll have a programming ID. So I'm going to go ahead and say we change this to 920 or 921. And set this to ID 7. I feel like 921 and ID 7 are going to be pretty odd ones to hit. And we're going to hold down 1, 2, 3. Release it. Okay, now it says OK and reset to start. So now we turn this off and we unplug this bad boy. So we now have the two 100% programmed together, which is what I love. So real quick, I'm going to show you more roughly than I want to say well how this whole process works. We'll get a better view of how this whole thing functions when we get it running. All right, so we're going to go ahead and replug that back in. I'm going to grab my 2S. I'm going to move the jumper pin back to run because we don't want to program anymore. I'm going to plug in this guy, and you notice on the back side the LED is working there. Still not sure why my LED up here isn't working. Well, anyway, that is not my problem at the moment. Downside of what I'm currently doing is we are in the basement. I don't actually anticipate this thing to get a very good fix. It did find 3 satellites earlier while we were connected to the computer. It is saying I have 7.4 volts on this. It's waiting for the TRS, which would be this bad boy. Hoping it finds it. All right, now it says waiting for GPS module. So it found the TX apparently, which is great to hear. So it is waiting for our GPS module that we installed on the base station. That's what we're currently waiting for, and that's why we're beeping. So basically it's waiting for this GPS to find signal. The whole point of that is that, so this guy has signal, but this guy needs to know where it's at. They're going to find out that they're literally like 2 feet from each other. Not the end of the world. If it figures itself out. I don't 100% know if it's going to work. So, especially because we're in the basement. But it is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, which is what I like to hear. and I don't know if it will actually connect. All right, so it still says waiting for GPS module. The next thing it's supposed to say is GPS fix and then waiting for fix. I don't think we're gonna get any GPS fix because we're in the basement, but it is nice to know that these two units are actually talking to each other. That gives me a lot of confidence moving forward. We'll go ahead and get everything connected on up. Oh, it says GPS fix. Holy cow. It'll display for 5 seconds. And now it says waiting for fix. Amazingly, it works. So then I should be getting, yeah, so a coordinate set and then a compass heading. If I press it once, so signal's bouncing around like crazy right now, but it is trying to find this thing. It basically, it's saying we're right on top of it. It's saying 0 feet, and right now it's telling me it's that way, which is like, it's saying it's that way. It's very wrong. But I don't mind. Like, that's still really cool to see this thing working. This is actually the first time I've turned this on. This is not like I've tried this before, but that is what we have. So say we now found our rocket, we'll just turn the unit off and we can unplug our rocket side GPS unit and unplug our base station. Again, thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed seeing how to build your EggFinder Mini. This thing is really cool and I'm very excited to get to use it in some upcoming projects. The next part of this video series, we are actually going to finish the build of our tracker box, this big bad boy, and then do a testing montage where I am going to play hide and go seek with my wife, where she gets this guy, which I will mount it up in a pretty little caddy so she's not running around with a circuit board, and I will hunt her with the base station. So thanks for watching. I hope you really enjoyed watching this video. Please consider liking and subscribing if you'd like to see more of this comment. It really helps us out a ton. I'll see you all in the next video.